Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Municipality of Anchorage Platting Board meeting of February 3rd, 2016. It's now about 6:35. Could we call roll, please?
Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Edmondson?
Here.
Ms. Enix?
Here.
Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Cross?
Here.
Mr. Seward?
Here.
Ms. Ritz?
Here.
Mr. Walker has been excused. Thank you.
Do we have a quorum? Okay, just one note here before we start into the agenda tonight. Obviously, the library is under some significant renovations, and the exit plan, emergency exit plan, has changed since our last meeting. So the fire marshal asked that we address that at the start of the meeting here. There are two fire exits for this room, and it's out the door here on the right and out on the door here on the left where the exit signs are. You cannot get out the back of the room. So those are our two primary and only points of egress in an emergency. So just wanted to make that statement. Obviously, I'm not Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker's been excused, so taking over his role tonight, and I'll work through the agenda here. I'll need some help, I'm sure, along the way from staff and others, but thank you. And and also additionally, if anybody is here for case S1-2224, John Wells, 1952 edition, vacation, case B that was on our agenda tonight. It has been postponed till March 2nd, 2016. So if you're here for that case, that will be postponed and will be on a March 2nd agenda. Okay, on to approvals. Action summaries. Can I have a motion for approval for action summary for Wednesday, January 6, 2016? Dan Young is moved, and Kevin Cross is seconded. Any changes or corrections to the action summaries? Anybody in opposition of the motion? That action summary has been approved. Minutes, can I have a motion for approval of meeting minutes for Wednesday, January 2nd, 2016? Kevin Cross has moved. Valerie Ritz has seconded. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? Seeing no changes. Any opposition to the motion for the approval of the minutes? No opposition. The minutes for January 6, 2016 have been approved. Special order of business. Disclosures. Does anybody have any disclosures to announce tonight? Commissioner Seward?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a direct financial interest in this case, and I'll need to recuse myself. It's been assigned by writing to Jeff Pistaldi as the petitioner's representative. Thank you.
So you've asked to be recused because you have a direct financial interest in this case. Any questions of Mr. Seward? Any comments? Mr. Seward, would you please specifically state the case?
The land surveyor involved preparing the plat and the petitioner's representative. Oh, I'm sorry. Case number S12246.
Fox Steinbach subdivision. Mr. Young?
Yes, I make a motion to direct him to participate tonight.
Mr. Young has made a motion to direct Commissioner Seward to participate. Don Porter has seconded. Any comments to the motion? Mr. Young.
Yes, through the chair, I will not be supporting my motion because Mr. Seward has stated that he has a direct conflict of interest with a financial involvement. So I will not be supporting the motion.
Any other comments? There has been opposition to the motion, so please vote. That motion has failed. Mr. Seward, you are directed to not participate in case S12246 Fox Steinbau subdivision. Any other disclosures? I see no disclosures. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, we have some informational items. Abbreviated plat action summaries for 1/11/2016. Those are in the packet for your information. Any comment on those? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. There are no items in the consent agenda. Is that correct? All right. No old business. And so we're on to the public hearing. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at this meeting is after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, have 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, as community councils, PTAs, etc., have 5 minutes, and individuals will have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action of the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 21.11.304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Planning Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMC 21.11.503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 21.30. Yeah, so Mr. Seward, before we dive into the public hearings, we'll excuse you for this case. Okay, I'm going to open for public hearing case S12246 Fox Steinbau subdivision. Can we have the staff presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I get into my staff presentation, I'd like to direct the board to page 6 of your staff packet for a an amendment to the staff recommendation. This request is a request of vacation of municipal right-of-way and approval of a plat for 18 months. But if you look at the department recommendation, it only recommends approval of the plat for 18 months. So I would like to, as item letter A, state approval of the request to vacate, and I'm going to read this, and please forgive me if I'm a bit long-winded, but approval of the request to vacate the west 20 feet of the 50-foot BLM easement along the east side of proposed lot 124A, the north 20 feet and 50-foot radius area of the 50-foot BLM easement along the north side of proposed lot 124A, and the north 50 feet portion of the BLM easement west of the 50-foot cul-de-sac along the north side of proposed lot 125A. The approval of the plat for 18 months should be moved to item B. I apologize for that mistake. So this is a request for subdivision of 2 lots into 2 different lots with the vacation of BLM easements along the east and north portions of the petition site. The petition site is located west of Carlson Street and south of East 102nd Avenue in South Anchorage. The property is zoned R6, Suburban Residential District, and the 2 resultant lots will meet the minimum lot size and lot width required by the underlying zoning district. With the dedication of the 30 feet of right-of-way along East 102nd Avenue, the existing house that is on that property will encroach in the required 50-foot primary front yard setback. The petitioner will need to establish non-conforming rights for that encroachment, which is a condition of approval of this plat. The petitioner is requesting to vacate, as I stated before, the west 20 feet of the 50-foot BLM easement along the east side of proposed lot 124A, the north 20 feet and 50-foot radius area of the 50-foot BLM easement along the north side of proposed lot 124A, and the north 50-foot portion of the BLM easement along the west of the 50-foot cul-de-sac along the north side of proposed lot 125A. This vacation request has been reviewed and found to conform with the municipal vacation policy. The area just west of the petition site along East 102nd Avenue is impacted by relatively steep slopes in the range of 10 to 20%. It would be difficult to construct a suitable roadway within this easement. The proposed plat mirrors the plat done in 2000 that included the vacation of the 50-foot BLM easement and dedication of the cul-de-sac for East 102nd Avenue directly north of this petition site. Generally speaking, reviewing agencies had either no comment or no objection to this request. Access to all adjoining property is provided by dedicated right-of-way. Traffic circulation would not be adversely impacted by this vacation. And due to the steep topography just west of this petition site and the vacation of the BLM easement and dedication of the half cul-de-sac bulb to the north as part of Plat 2000-21, staff believes that the requested vacation or right-of-way being requested for vacation is excess to municipal needs. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the request to vacate the BLM easement and approval of the plat for 18 months, subject to the conditions listed on page 6 of your staff packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Whitfield? I have a question, Mr. Whitfield. Just want to clarify the amendment to your department recommendations. You're going to change what is now Amendment A to Recommendation A to Item B, and then add Item A that reads vacation of the west 20 feet of the 50-foot BLM easement along the east side of proposed lot 124A, the north 20 feet, and 50-foot radius area of the 50-foot BLM easement along the north side of proposed lot 124A, and the north 50-foot portion of the BLM easement west of the 50-foot cul-de-sac along the north side of proposed lot 125A. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
All right, I'd like to open this up to public hearing. May we have the petitioner's presentation, please? If you could state your name, spell it for the record. Also, you'll have 10 minutes. If you could let me know how much time you want for rebuttal, we will put it up here in the machine.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my name is Jeff Gastaldi, Gastaldi, and I'm representing the petitioner this evening. I believe Mr. Whitfield's done a pretty good job of presenting all the facts of this case. I'll take a few minutes and just reiterate.
Mr. Gastaldi, could you adjust the mic so we can hear you? Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, I believe planning staff has done a good job of laying out the case so far. I'll just go ahead and revisit the main points of this project. There are two existing BLM lots, and they're encumbered by BLM easements 50 foot in width, 50 feet on the north, 50 feet on the east. This case seeks to vacate portions of the easements on each side and then combine that with the lots to create two new lots. The remaining BLM easement will be dedicated to right-of-way. As noted by the staff and in the packet, the request has been reviewed and found to conform to municipal vacation policy. Access to the surrounding properties is via dedicated rights-of-way, and traffic circulation will not be impacted by this. I'd point out that there was no recommendation for any construction at this point till further development. So based on that, I believe the BLM easements are excess to municipal needs, and as there were no objections to this request by any of the reviewing agencies, I think it would be appropriate to approve this. So in light of that, I'd like to ask you to approve the vacation and also approve the preliminary plat subject to the 4 conditions recommended by the planning department. So if you have any questions on this, I can try and answer them.
You have 7 minutes left for a rebuttal. Are there any questions for Mr. Gastaldi and the petitioner? Mr. Porter.
Yes, Mr. Gastaldi. So, are you going to have? Is the property owner going to have any trouble establishing the non-conforming rights for the structural encroachments, as noted in item 3 of recommendation now B?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Porter, I don't believe they'll have any trouble. They'll just have to go through the process. The house has been there a long time, and that's just going to have to be a condition of approval, and if it doesn't work, then they'll have to cross that bridge later. But preliminary investigation would indicate that it's going to be doable to get the approval for the nonconformity.
The reason I ask is the other half about it is to move the structure to a conforming location. That seems a little unreasonable at this point, right?
Correct.
So, okay. But you're okay with leaving that in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Whitfield?
Through the chair, Mr. Porter, I just wanted to speak to the non-conforming issue. From the property line, the house currently conforms to the setbacks. There's well, it'd be a 25 foot, a 50 foot front yard setback. Being as though there is a 50 foot BLM easement, they currently conform. However, when you dedicate right-of-way and you create a nonconformity by dedicating right-of-way, you are by code deemed conforming. So they'll just need to establish that through our land use review office, and it shouldn't be an issue. So I don't see, I've done investigation on this, I've looked into it. I don't see it as being an issue. I just think it's another step that they're going to have to take in recording this plat. So I don't see it as being an issue.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions for Mr. Gastaldi, the petitioner? No. Again, you have 7 minutes and 39 seconds for rebuttal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll open the hearing up to public testimony. If you'd like to testify, please step up to the microphone, state your name, spell it for us, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Platting Board. My name is Dan Boyette. Last name is B-O-Y-E-T-T-E. I'm here with my wife, Sharon Boyette. We're the neighbors to the Fox Steinbaus directly to the north. So we're on the north side of that, of 102nd Avenue. I'm here just very briefly to extend our support to this whole thing. It works for us. We have no objection to what they're asking. So we'd like to just say that we support the application. I do have a question, though, and it might be for staff over there, but I don't understand the 18-month portion of this. Could someone briefly clarify that for me?
Mr. Whitfield, could you explain that to Mr. Boyette, please?
Through the chair, Mr. Boyette, yes, this is a preliminary plat approval, and it's subject to conditions. So basically, the petitioner has 18 months to resolve the conditions associated with this plat approval and record the plat. So it's basically it's the first part of a two-part process in recording the plat. So you have 18 months to resolve all the issues associated with this approval and record the plat. So that's where the 18 months comes from.
Thank you. I understand now. Okay, that's all I have to say. Anything? Do you want anything else from me?
Any questions for Mr. Boyette?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Barbeau. My last name is spelled B-A-R-B-E-A-U. And I am also a neighbor of Ms. Fox and Mr. Steinbaugh, lot 130, immediately to the south of this lot. And I don't have any concern with the vacation of the easements, that issue. I do have concerns, and not knowing the processes here, being new to this, I don't know if this is the right forum, but I do have concerns with the overall subdivision of the lot and the presumption, and I haven't had the opportunity to speak with Charlotte and Mike, but my assumption that their intent is to eventually sell the lot that doesn't contain the house. And so my concerns are with possible impacts on water primarily. So well and septic. My well, 30-plus years ago, was negatively impacted by the golf course development. Did not have water rights at that time, do now, but I have an ongoing concern with that aspect, and I don't know if there's anything that one can do regarding subdivision given the zoning, but I did want to express that concern as a neighbor.
Do you have a specific question, Mr. Barbeau?
I don't. Again, I just wanted to be on record with regards to that aspect of this action.
Okay.
So, thank you very much.
We have some questions for you. Mr. Cross.
Actually, I just wanted to read from the staff packet and under the platting notes some very specific verbiage that the petitioner has to abide by. And on page 3 of our staff packet, this is basically part of the conditions that he needs to develop by. And it says specifically under plat notes, the property owner and utilities shall not raise, lower, or regrade the property in a manner that will alter the drainage patterns without prior approval from the Municipality of Anchorage Building Safety Office. So that's the first part that he'll go through. The second part, part 2, is the property owners and utilities shall not obstruct, impede, or alter approved drainage facilities such as swells or ditches in any way that will adversely impact adjacent properties or right-of-ways. So they will, through this process, they will analyze his drainage and impact on how it affects you and your neighbors before they'll give him approval, and that's part of that 18-month process.
Okay. I did note that in my brief review of the package when I arrived, and I hope that that's something that can be determined in advance as opposed to after the fact. But thank you for pointing that out.
Mr. Young?
Yes, I want to just add to that. That's on also on page 6 under the department recommendations. And if we approve this tonight, that would be part of the conditions. And the other thing I want to talk about briefly is Title 15 with the on-site services. That is going to require, if somebody does drill a new well, that there's going to have to be appropriate separation distances from your septic system. And their new septic system, if they put one in, will have to be, there'll be separation distances they have to comply with to keep away from your well. So there are ordinances in place to protect you, and as part of the permitting process, they'll be required to comply with those.
And yet, again, with the golf course development and their deep well, it dewatered my well.
I understand. I also understand, as I'm a professional hydrogeologist, the amount of water that the golf course uses compared to one additional residential well in your area.
Sure.
And I can't say for certain, but I can say that it's unlikely there would be a noticeable impact.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ms. Barbeau, excuse me.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Petitioner, is there any other public testimony? Okay. Petitioner, you have 7 minutes and 39 seconds for rebuttal. Mr. Gastaldi.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I don't really have anything to add. As Mr. Young noted, through the permitting process, if they develop that lot, they will have to meet with on-site and provide a design that will meet the conditions of separation, et cetera. So I don't think, as Mr. Young pointed out, that well for single-family home will be any comparison to what the golf course probably did. So I can understand a person's concern, of course, but That's all I have.
Mr. Young, you have a question for
Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Gastaldi, there's no, I don't have any topography information here. I understand the slopes are 10 to 20%. So I have a question on 102nd Avenue to the west of the cul-de-sac bulb. Is that where the grade is 10 to 20%?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Young, yes, it drops down steeply down towards Elmore, as Elmore drops to the north going towards the creek.
And thank you. And Mr. Gastaldi, it's my understanding, but possibly you know, otherwise staff would know. Isn't it typical that the municipality will not allow roads to be greater than 10%?
Mr. Young, I believe that's correct,
Through the chair.
without some sort of variance
Thank you.
and
Through the
extenuating.
chair, could I direct that question to staff?
Sure, Mr. Whitfield, would you address Mr. Young?
Through the chair, Mr. Young, yes, that is correct. Actually, grades up to 10% are typically, they would require a variance. They're not something that the municipality likes to see. I believe the DCM allows for 8%, but can go up to 10% with a variance. I'm not exactly sure of that, but yes, grades up to 10% are not desirable.
Just real quickly, that's my understanding from other projects I've worked on was 8% is now the limit with exceptions to 10%. So this would, this road could not be extended even with the variance most likely if it's over 10%.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Young, I believe that's correct.
Thank you.
There's too much drop to take in the, there's not enough length for that much drop to make it work without a variance, and not even sure the slopes could be contained within the 50-foot that is available there.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Gastaldi, the petitioner? Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Gastaldi. I'd like to close the public hearing. The matter now rests with the board. All right. Can I have a positive motion for approval? Mr. Porter has moved. Looking for a second. Okay. Mr. Porter, would you like to make your motion, please?
Certainly. I move that we, for approval of the vacation request, as stated, and I'm going to restate it again, reading off page 5, to vacate the west 20 feet of the 50-foot BLM easement along the east side of the proposed lot 124A, the north 20 feet and 50-foot radius area of the 50-foot BLM easement along the north side of the proposed lot 124A, and the north 50-foot portion of the BLM easement west of the 50-foot cul-de-sac along the north side of proposed lot 125A.
Mr. Young has seconded the motion. Mr. Porter, will you please speak to your motion?
Yes, I intend to support this motion for a number of reasons. The department staff recommendations have clearly outlined what is going on around the lot and the reasons why it's access to the municipal use. One of the findings that I'd like to point out is that we have support of the neighbors. They both have support of the actual vacation. One actually has concerns which are addressed by the department recommendations for grading and other items that address her concerns. It also matches in conformity for items that have already taken place on lots 98A and 99A. The cul-de-sac that's being generated is similar in nature to what's already been approved, and the road grades for East 102nd would be too steep to be allowed if it were to be pushed through. So the municipal agencies agree that this is a cul-de-sac area, that the road should not be extended, and therefore that puts the right-of-way to access to municipal use.
Does anybody else want to speak to the motion? Mr. Young.
Yes, I would like to add to that, except that I think Mr. Porter did a good job. So I agree with his comments. And I want just briefly to add findings that there were public testimony today, and we believe the neighbors to the north and the south support the vacation. One concern is possibly an impact from water, but we've discussed that would be addressed under Title 15 if the lot was ever developed. And then there was some written comments that were submitted from Wind Beach. These comments were submitted on December 21st, and these are about there's not a reason for vacation, and Mr. Porter's response and findings cover that, and that the grade is too steep and it's not feasible to build a road that's greater than 10% grade. So I will be supporting this motion based on those findings.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Seeing none, are there any objections to the motion? No objections. Motion has passed. And I have a positive motion for approval of the plat. Mr. Porter has moved. Would you speak to your motion, Mr. Porter?
Yes, I move for approval of the plat for 18 months, which will be listed as Department Recommendation Item B, listing items 1 through 4, including 4A and 4B, which are resolve utility easements, provide current planning. Item 3 is established non-conforming rights, and item 4 is the following plat notes A and B.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Okay, I see. Did you want to speak to your motion, Mr. Porter?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So I intend to support this motion. As we previously discussed in the findings for the previous approval, we believe that the department recommendations address concerns brought by the public, and that this should move forward.
Okay, anybody else wish to speak to the motion? Seeing none, put it out to vote. Are there any objections to the motion? No objections to the motion. Motion is approved. All right, moving on to case S1-2224. Mr. Seward, you can now rejoin us for the meeting. Okay, welcome back, Mr. Seward. In the case S12224, can I have a motion for postponement to March 2nd, 2016? Mr. Young has moved. Mr. Cross has seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion, Mr. Young?
No, it appears that, well, I will, yes. It appears the application was incomplete, so I'm going to support this motion.
Any additional comments, members? Seeing none. Is there any opposition to the motion? See no opposition. Case S12224 has been postponed to March 2nd, 2016. Okay, we don't have any appearance requests, is that correct? Persons to be heard. Reports. No reports. Any board member comments tonight?
Yes,
Mr. Young.
Through the chair, I'll be brief, but typically when a motion is made, what we've been doing is seconding it oftentimes before the motion is made. And I just want to share with everybody that it's more appropriate to have the motion made and then second the motion. Those are my comments.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sometimes we do jump the gun, so we should move the motion and then have the mover speak to their motion before it's seconded. So
We can second the motion. It's appropriate to second the motion before the mover speaks to the motion. So the mover makes the motion, then the motion is seconded, then the speaker speaks to it, or then the mover speaks to it.
Any other additional board comments tonight? Yes. Elections will be next month. So the next month's, when is next hearing? Do we have March 2nd? So at the March 2nd hearing, we will have elections for officers' positions. So be thinking of that between now and then. All right, any other comments? I have a motion for adjournment. Dan Young has moved for adjournment. Mr. Porter has seconded. Thank you very much.